Welcome back to another episode of the Just Colleen Podcast. Hi, I'm Colleen, and don't let life get you down. This is a short weekly audio podcast on everyday life and feelings, sharing insights to see the brighter side of life. Medical disclaimer: a life coach's role is focused upon personal development and wellness coaching, not medical diagnosis or treatment. Today's episode is a little difficult of a conversation to have. Being uncomfortably welcome. Have you ever walked into a room or maybe even into a Zoom meeting and suddenly felt uncomfortable, yet welcomed? You know that feeling that, you just shouldn't be there and you're unsure why? Take, for instance, you went to a family or high school reunion. You were so happy to see everyone again, but if you knew there were going to be the same people who you really weren't close to, or that maybe you weren't even nice to, then you walk in the door and most everyone is just full of welcomes and hugs. Then there's that one or group of persons who tend to move away, or you just get the feeling that they're very uncomfortable around you. This is uncomfortably welcome. Let's go over some of the signs that someone is uncomfortable in your presence, even though they may be trying to hide it, and what you need to do. You may see them make excuses why they have to always leave early. They may make excuses as to why they can't make it for a dinner. You see the pattern. They'll do whatever it is that they can do to not have to deal with you in a mature way. Yes, it's a very childish thing to do. However, it happens. These people are toxic to treat someone that way. It is one of the lowest things you can actually do to a person. People who become uncomfortable by your presence will justify to themselves adopting malevolent attitudes and actions towards you. Sometimes even blaming you or making accusations of you being a certain way. That's when you need to get to know their comfort isn't your responsibility, as long as you are not actively seeking out their discomfort. Make sense? Okay, so I think it's important to remember that you are not responsible for people's comfort levels. It is not the same as you should not care about how people feel, though. In my experiences, when people act malevolent, it's usually because they're either jealous or they find something that triggers them, particularly when in most confident state of being. People perhaps get angry at other people that feel good about themselves. Have you ever been around those people that want you to be miserable or as miserable as they are? If you try to reason with people or bring up their mood, it's going to go one or two ways. They will either break down or persist or enhance the behavior. We can only try to lead the horse to water. We can't make them drink. But I don't just dismiss it right off the bat as not my problem. Because if I did something to offend someone without realizing it, I'd really like to know about it. If they can't communicate the reason, then clearly it's not my problem. And that is the sole point. So actively seeking out a person's discomfort may or may not cause them more discomfort. Examples here. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings when I joked about that. Or, what do you mean my playing conspiracy theory radio at work makes my coworker feel unsafe? Or, my intention was not to make that server break out in hives when I brought my untrained personal dog into the cafe. Personal and social responsibility are key points of stoicism, in my opinion. And we have a duty to be excellent to one another. While we can never force a person to like us or engage with us, we should always strive to be empathetic and as kind as we can be to our fellow humans. The counterpoint here is, if people are adopting malevolent attitudes and actions towards you, you might consider your behaviors are unjustifiably antisocial for the context. And the wise thing to do would be to temper those behaviors, right? Attention, acceptance, and feelings of belonging. It's like currency in social situations. These people would often withhold and maybe not even reciprocate. You are responsible, and I'm amplifying, you are responsible for your own comfort. And that's it. By learning to see what is your responsibility and what's not, that's how we grow to become more authentic persons. We become happy. Say someone is typically outgoing, always seems to get more quiet or closed off when you're around. This may be a sign that just your presence makes them uneasy. In fact, according to California-based career coach Elizabeth Pearson, she says this type of recoiling or distancing can indicate specific stressors like fear and intimidation. On the other hand, have you ever considered you were or are another's source of stress and maybe not even realized it? Have you seen them possibly overindulge on unhealthy foods? According to Harvard Medical School, consistent stress releases cortisol and in turn increases those cravings for fried or sugary foods, those comfort foods. Have you ever noticed when in a conversation, the other person is looking at their phone or looking in another direction or seem to be self-distracted consistently during a conversation, unintentionally? Or is it intentional? Eye contact is so important when engaged in conversation, even when the conversation is via video. Another is tapping, be it your feet, your pen or pencil, their nails, fingertips, even a persistent bouncing of their leg. So this, according to the American Institute of Stress, put the link in the description, may in fact be a stress-related vector when around you. Is it really your issue of their stress? Maybe even others make plans without including you, such as posting invites on social media platforms you don't visit often, and they know it, saying, I added you to the invite list, but you don't see it for weeks. Work meetings and outings that you are fully unaware of. Does any of this sound familiar? Or have you been told that you are too chatty? So that's their way of saying, we really don't want to hear it. Have they had complaints of headaches or being really tired when around you, or possibly other medical issues when you're around? So these are just a few signs of people who are uncomfortable around you. Now, on how to handle this. Don't ask too many questions. Questions can serve as icebreakers or help you catch up with a friend that you haven't seen for a while. But if that person appears already uncomfortable, don't ask them questions or too many questions. Use appropriate language. There's many people who are sensitive to a certain language, such as someone who swears consistently. Some people find humor and sarcasm cruel. Watch their body language. Make sure you make appropriate eye contact with them while speaking. Try not to be too clingy. Respect other people's opinions. And my number one suggestion is stop oversharing. People do not need to know all the wheres, whys, and hows. Even I find myself oversharing occasionally, especially when I'm stressed around another person. Notice your stressor. Listen to your body. Listen to your gut, your instinct. If you find in a situation where maybe another or others are appearing uncomfortable in your presence, say you're at a birthday party and you tend to gravitate away from those who make apparent that you have an unwelcoming presence. Just leave if the situation stresses you out. Sure, you may think they get the satisfaction of making you leave. Yet, in turn, you stood up for yourself, your healthy self, by leaving, which shows you are the bigger person. These types of situations can be at work, with family, in friendship circles, or even in public. So I hope some of this helped you with learning how to spot the signs of being in an uncomfortable, welcoming situation and how to work through it with yourself. Remember, they are the ones who are reacting to you. That is their issue to resolve. You know your issues and triggers that you are working on to resolve. If not, we're going to go back to the journaling. Write down the situation, the entirety, what happened, what took place, and then go back and look, because we're not here to blame other people for our own misguidance. We're not here to blame other people for our own issues. And once we see those, we can make resolutions to them. Apologies? Sure, you can make apologies. Will they be accepted? Maybe. Maybe not. If it was you, or if they feel it was you, if they're open enough to be able to make it part of a discussion, and perhaps it is you, then at least you have an idea of what you need to work on within you. All right, thanks for tuning back into another episode of the Just Colleen Podcast. Don't let life get you down. Stay tuned next week for another episode. We're just going to keep talking about feelings and gratefulness and trying to create more uniformity in people. There's so much separation that's going on right now, just for menial things. And we really need to get back to holding each other's hands, holding each other up, being kind, and not walking out the door and being afraid. If you would like to discuss this a little bit further, I'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one with you. Sessions are complimentary. They're 90-minute sessions. Donations are greatly appreciated to help with our channel and keeping our podcasts going, along with our shelter efforts and fostering it. Thanks again for tuning back into another episode of the Just Colleen Podcast. Don't let life get you down, and have a fantabulous day.